Good day and welcome back to Elementary 72 Gaming. So we're once again back in the Tower of God, and this time we're doing another 10 chapters. This time it's episode 31 to episode 40. So we'll kick off with episode 41, where we see Baum take off at the first sign that there was trouble for his teammates. And we see Wagner is chasing after the Zigna, at which point he gets into a point that's too small, and basically he explains that he believes that Misang could fit in and follow it, and he basically advises her to do it, and only if she's up to it, and she says she can, and she goes for it. At this point we also get Prince and Uriang in their little conversation, where they being urged to leave. Now the reason why they being urged to leave is this crazy guy is in there. This is actually from this particular part, and as he arrives, he basically tells them, if you even think of running away, if you want to live a little longer, don't. So Prince just sits still, and they both there, and they basically looking up, and they see Yurik. And basically they explain that rankers have come in and they've all been dying, and that they keep sending them in. And basically they say that they're not rankers, they're regulars. They came in here because it's their test to bring out a Zigna flower. And basically Yurik is shocked at this here, and he's like, the rankers were annoying, they kept interrupting him while he was in here. And he says that he found the flower, but it's not time for him to leave yet, so he was killing time with all those rankers. And basically Yurik says, you poor babies, and it's one of the things that he is famous for. And basically they said, have you done anything bad to the supervisors? And Huriang thinks it's because of Viol that they set this up. They wanted Viol to be killed, and they figured that Yurik might be the best idea. So Yurik says he's gonna let them go. Then we see Viol enter, and basically he looks up at Yurik, and Viol is like, and basically Huriang says he's beyond their ability to deal with. And then we see Baum looking up at Yurik, and basically thinking about going at it in this fight. And then we see that the other three are gathered together, and they're basically worrying about Misang being alone. And basically they feel it's better for her. She was feeling down, thinking that she was of no use to the team, and that they needed her to do things on her own so she can gain some confidence as a scout. And then after this year, we see that everyone starts walking around. And we see that Arc Raptor asks Wagner why he was behaving weird, and what did the FUG members say. And basically Wagner explains, if their team fails any exams, one of Viol's friends dies. And we see Viol say that he can't give up. Then we see Yurik look down on Viol, and Viol says the thing that we know is the most important to him. I have things that I fear more than death. It's what Evan said in the start of the story, and then we see Yurik take up his his stance, and basically we see them getting ready to go at each other, and he basically says he'll play with him, little boy, and that is the end of episode 31. Now we're going into 32, and I have to start picking up the pace here because the Flower of Zigna is quite a good little chapter, but we hear a howl that comes out from Yurik, I'm suspecting, and basically Huriang tells Prince that they need to leave. And basically they say that it's a fight they know they can't win, and basically Yurik says in a few minutes the Zigna will flip. It won't be fun to just fight, should we play a game? And he says, okay, the Zigna's flower you're looking for is up there. We'll fall on it as the Zigna flips its body. If you get that flower before I get it, he'll give him the flower, but if he catches Viol, he dies. And Viol nods, saying yes, that he gets it. We see then that Huriang tells Prince to leave a message for the others on the coordinates so they can all coordinate their attack, and basically he does it immediately, sending the message to all of the teammates, and they all get ready to pull off the ambush. And basically Yurik says, shall they talk for a minute? So Yurik explains that he doesn't understand why Fug wants to take over the throne, and he explains that the throne may seem like it's a very good position, but there's far greater things out there, and his goal is to leave the tower, and that he'll leave the boarding position to Jahad. And he says that there's a huge world out there, there's an endless sky and numerous stars that illuminate the night. And basically he gives his whole speech, and we see Viol respond. He doesn't know. He doesn't need stars or a crown or the sky, but if someone is trying to hurt those who are precious to him, he'll fight. And we see Yurik basically give this sign that Viol has guts, and he expresses Yuri would love that. And basically he's explaining in his own words that he thinks Yuri would fall for this guy instantly if she ever met him. So they say they'll count to 10. It's only manners for them to all get into place. And he starts his count as everybody is getting into position. And we see Miseng is just about to catch one of the Zigna flowers. And we see Balm is getting ready with his floral butterfly piercing technique. And then finally they reach the count of 10. And basically it says now it's more fun, and they basically say let the game begin. And that is the end of episode 32. Now episode 33 is also very important, and what happens in the next chapter is also very, very important. So we see that regular lighthouses won't work well on Yurik, and he says if you want to stop him, you need to bring an opera. And basically there are only 3 operas in the tower, and that means only one of 3 people could stop him for more than a millisecond with the lighthouse. He gets through it, and basically we see the crazy fight as it's going, and they all attack Yurik, and then we see Balm getting ready. And then we see Yurik says the legendary power, Supreme Kings, and then we see Floral Butterfly as the thing, and it's Supreme King's Scorching Fist of Death. The move that we saw on the first floor, it's a little bit of homage to the fact that that guy may have been a member of Wulayuk Song at that point in the story. And then we see the 2 techniques are about to meet, and we see that Miseng is about to get hit by the technique, and that's basically the last we see. We see Balm took massive damage to his back because he is protecting Miseng, and we see that a message comes into Yurik that they'll arrive soon, and everybody starts running in to confront Viol, and basically they say that that there's another Zigna flower, and he basically gives one over to Balm, and he says, that when Viol wakes up, tell him the courage to protect a teammate while facing the strongest man. And when he walks away, they look at his back and they see the name Mazino, Yurik Mazino. And then at the top we see the rankers are waiting for Yurik as he comes to the top, and he says, and then when Yurik comes to the top, he sees these rankers and he says, but isn't 1 verse 3 too unfair? And the rankers basically give the stuff. Basically, they say it's fair to bring 3 to verse 1. And then Yurik says, no, what I meant was you should be at least 1 verse 1000 so that I don't feel embarrassed talking about it. And basically he calls them weaklings, at which point they try to attack Yurik, and Yurik takes down the supervisor of the test. So basically he explains this is a baby Zigna, that's what the flower is on, and that it needs the flower for nutrients, and that's how it grows. And basically Yurik takes it and he says, in a few years he'll come back with many Zigna babies, and at that point the value of the flower will really drop quickly. And this ranker asks, who is he? And he says he wrote his name on his back. If you've got any complaints, come and see him. He's not afraid of anyone. And we see that basically because he's Yurik Mazino, he basically has nobody to fear. He's one of the top 3 in the tower. It's possible that top 4. Him, Fentaminum, Enryu, and Jahad are the top 4 strongest, and it can be any one of those 4 as number 1. And finally, Yurik enters into his ship, which is taking him up, and they said that he has a wound on his face, and says they shouldn't underestimate rankers. And he says, no, this isn't from rankers, this is from him. At the moment that he attacked, it wasn't just for defense, it was also for assault. And he says that they need to keep an eye on that baby slayer from Fug. Something fun is going to happen, and that is where episode 33 ends. And this is also very important leading up to the workshop battle. We then see that Balm is in a bad condition and Jinsung Ha is looking after him, and we see that everybody is worried. It's been 2 days and he still hasn't woken up, and everybody is a bit shaken up at the fact that they had Yurik Mazino and that the test director left very suddenly at the end of the exam, and that on the day when all this happened, the confidential information about the Zigna babies was revealed, and the Yuan family who ruled over the 21st floor offered a great reward for the Zigna baby that Yurik took. And then we see Jinsung Ha tell Wagnan to leave Viol's side, and he explains that he'll find new teammates for him, and he will let them live for Viol's sake, and they should just forget about Fug and Viol and get away from here. And they basically are told to leave by the morning. And Wagnan asks if Jinsung needs anything from the market, and they basically go there. At this point, Wagnan talks to the rest of the team and he tries to convince them to leave the team. And he expresses that he really wants to go up the tower with Viol, but the problem is that it's too dangerous, and it's not too dangerous for them, it's too dangerous for Viol. And he explains that if everybody left the team and we all got a better team. He might have been able to meet his friends up on a higher floor. Then we see Iwa looking very depressed when she found out the secret about the Yuan family and the Zigna flower. And we see that Wari Yuan actually pushes her over to a different path altogether. And they basically see that that a lot is going on within her head. She's feeling really conflicted about everything, and she's seeing the 10 great families for the evil that they are. And basically, Warrigan puts in her head that she shouldn't be moping around, that she should be trying to make things right. Isn't that what the elite should do? That's what she says. At this point, Iwa decides that she's going to do things on her own, and she says that she'll take on her cooking duty and viols at the same time. At this point, we see that Misang starts crying, and they wonder why she's crying, and basically they finally figure out a way to convince her to do something else. Then we see it hops on to Jinsang Ha and Wagnan, and Wagnan brings Jinsang 3 lollipops, and they ask, what's this? The cigarettes I recommend to you, try one. It'll be the sweet instead of bitter. And he says the food is ready, and that they've decided to make their own path. It has nothing to do with Fug and the 10 families nor Jahad, and that they will be going with Jahad, and that they just wanted to let him know. And then we see Jinsang say, come out Karaka, and there is sorry Wagnan, he won't be able to dine out tonight. And that is the end of episode 34. Now I do want to get done with this as fast as possible. So we see Karaka come out, and basically we see the ring of Jahad on his finger, because he is also one of the princes of Jahad. At this point we see the two of them start talking, and we see Karaka address Jinsang as master. And we see Jinsang say that he can't let Karaka take care of Viol, because he can't let a kid take care of a kid, and that they need to go somewhere else because the administrator is watching them. So they head off to another area, and he basically, Jinsang congratulates Karaka on raising his rank quite a lot, and basically they keep having a little conversation. And Karaka says they finally have a weapon to kill Jahad, and why don't you kill those beside Viol and make him a team with people we can trust to watch him. And Jinsang basically says he told him to leave Viol alone, and doesn't Karaka trust Jinsang? And basically we see Jinsang is upset that people think that he'll ruin things, and we see that he betrayed his own family for Fug, and since that day he spent so many dark nights waiting for the right time to come. Why would he ruin it with something useless like a faction for the new Slayer candidate? And he expresses the more friends that Viol has, the more hostages that Fug has to use against him. And he explained that he has his own plan, and at that point we see Jinsang offer Karaka to eat with him, and that the guy told him that there's someplace extraordinary to eat, and sorry about that, I'm using and too much. We also find out that Karaka won't remove his mask in front of somebody who he cannot trust, and he says he'll see him next time. And Jinsang starts sucking on the lollipop that he was given, and he expresses he shouldn't have refused Wagnan, at which point we see Karaka appoint Hokan to find some trustworthy regulars and tell him to keep an eye on Viol and his team. And if they act the least bit suspicious, kill them all. And that is what he is doing now. He is not allowed to interfere with Slayer nominees. That is one of the rules within FUG. But there is something else more nefarious going on behind the scenes. It's all about this secret weapon that they are really hiding away, which is actually this thing here, the Thorn. So they explain that they got Iwa not to cook, and instead they got her to look after Viol. So after this year, we see Wagnan go up to Huariyun and starts talking to her, and he says that he heard that she's a guide and that she can help him find a way to find Viol's friends. And she says, why would she help him? She is a FUG member. And he says, a guide only tells someone the path that they can take. They'll never tell them a path that they can't take. And they basically go for it. And Huariyun is actually playing 3-dimensional chess against people playing 2-dimensional chess, where they can't even see pawns on the board. That's how crazy it is with what she is playing right now. And she calls Wagnan Prince of the Red Light District. And she explains that the workshop battles on the 30th floor, and that everybody will be there when this year happens, and that they have 2 years until the next battle, and if they can do it, then they can rejoin Baam's teams. And we see that the return of the prince, first story, Prince of Jahad, the end, right? And we get into the next section, where Shibisu and the rest of his team are basically getting ready to move up. And they on the 30th floor, there's only one chance to get up there, and they missed their shot. So they're basically getting ready to go up again. And Kun's team is really catching up to them, and they're all going to be on the 30th floor for their exam. And they basically say, let's meet at the workshop battle. So we get the hint that everybody is on their way there. So that is the end of episode 35. Now 36, 37, 38 is going to be quite a heavy bit of story, and then I will get into the whole breakdown of all this info. We see a flashback of Jinsang Ha and Hansang Yu with their training of Baam, and how Jinsang didn't believe that Baam was the right person for this, and how he fought really hard. And Jinsang says that he's not like an irregular. He seems different from the usual irregulars, and he's too ordinary. If he was a monster like Yurik Mizuno, he wouldn't worry about doing anything. So we see that Jinsang Ha teaches him the floral butterfly piercing technique, and basically he creates a golem that can only be destroyed by the piercing technique, and he teaches him the piercing technique by applying it to his body, which causes a slight trauma. And after that, we basically see that Jinsang was feeling really horrible about what he did to him. And he says that anger dulls one's senses, and that ever since the day when he lost his cool and all of that there, he didn't really feel much, and now it's been so long that his anger has calmed down. Then we see Huariyun say that Viol mustn't die before he kills Jahad. And then we see Huariyun reset the golem, and she explains, in FUG there are those with a grudge against the 10 families and Jahad. There are those who hate or envy them, and those who want to change the tower. For these people, a slayer is their god. They can make their dreams come true. They are the ones who will kill the ones who no one else can kill. and basically she says, "Good luck, my god," and that is where we all starts training. And Jin Sang Ha basically has something said to him by Han Sang Yu that he'll change his mind if he keeps watching a little bit more when he sees the boy's power. And he thinks to himself, he's just an ordinary weak boy. And basically, he walks past Warrior and he says, "Did you go to see the boy? Did you cure him?" And she says, "No, he looked bored, so I rebuilt the stone door for him." And Jinsang thinks he must still be writhing in pain. He needs to get there immediately and help him. And it's not possible to break that doll without the piercing technique. And what's wrong with these people? Do they want to really kill the boy? And he gets in there and he looks at the doll and he notices the doll has taken damage from the piercing technique. And he thinks he copied it after watching it just once. And Jin Sang goes and he destroys the golem. And he says, "Did you want to become stronger? I'll show you how to become a god." And basically, this is where Jin Sang Ha really takes on Bam as his student. So that is the end of chapter 36. So let's go on to 37. We get on to this 77th floor middle area with Lero, Ro, and Quant, and they are searching for Willa Yuksong, and they've been there for quite a while, running around over and over. And then they find this Kun Kun Game Center in the middle of the 77th floor, where it is a Willa Yuksong area, and we see that Quant is excited to go play games. So finally they enter into it and they see that the top scores all belong to Blueberry. And then we see Blueberry show up, and his name is actually Hatsling Kun. So he shows up and basically he takes on Quant in a number of games, and he just keeps beating him up and practicing moves on his dead character each time that he beats him. And he's basically making him play for money, and he ends up thrashing Quant in every game that they play so badly that Quant starts freaking out, and he basically says he'll even risk his life to beat him now that he is broke. And he says if you win in this game, he'll even give him back his money. So he tricks Quant outside to play some kind of fighter game with a jet that he says is a simulated jet, but it's actually a real jet. And Hatsling uses this massive ship to actually bring it down instantly. And then we see Lero Ro take on Hatsling, and he explains that he broke the code and that he knows who he really is, and that he came here to get an audience with Willa Yuksong. And we see that Hatsling takes him seriously and pulls out one of his spears, and he says the game is over. And then we see Yuj call Hatsling, and he basically is taking them as a joke, because they're not really that powerful as rankers, and he's a advanced ranker at the best and a high ranker. He's an advanced ranker at the least and a high ranker at the best. So he sees it and he realizes that now he has a chance to get these guys into Willa Yuksong, and he says fine, he has an intern position, and depending on how things go, he'll take him to Willa Yuksong if they succeed at whatever he gives them. And basically that's how Lero Ro and Quant end up joining Willa Yuksong on the this is the end of 37. So we'll go to 38, and this is where things get crazy. We see that people are talking to the app called Emily. Each person is putting in different information and they're getting information out of Emily, and Emily is being used for them to actually get advice on a lot of various ideas. And we see that it's Ender Rossi, Edan, a whole lot of different regulars all communicating to Emily, and we find out that Emily is an app which is being used by the regulars. We also find out that it's part of the workshop and that it's being used by the workshop. And we see that Emily has been luring people called travelers in to help her to save herself, because she's being used by the workshop in this whole thing. She believes she's a human. And then she gets a weird message, and she gets this message saying the 25th palm and doesn't understand, and the person replies is alive, and that is the end of episode 38. Now you have to understand that Emily plays a big part in the next part of the story when the workshop battle starts. We then get into one of the exams with Kun, where they're having this march battle. Now a march battle is where two sides play against each other and they have to take a flag from the other team, and basically that's the whole idea behind this. And the team is pinned down and they're trying to get their way through, and basically Edan is using Emily to try and find out where the enemy will show up. And when he takes Ran to a spot and the enemy isn't there, Ran basically is going to hit Edan, and all of a sudden the regulars from the other team show up and they start fighting with Ran and Dan. And at this point Ran takes on both the regulars and Dan runs through the hole that they created. And they explain that there were two mole men on their team, so they have actually two tunnels being created. And Ran basically asks, so this hole is directly connected to your flag. Am I right or wrong? And he says that basically this game is lost because Edan is going to get there and everything is going to be going their way. Finally, Dan reaches there, he hits the buzzer and they win. And then we see Kun interrogating Dan about using Emily in the middle of the exam, and he basically says, so what would have happened if Emily was wrong? Who was going to take responsibility? And he says, we're not such a lame team that we have to rely on uncertain information. So Kun basically takes the phone away from Dan and he starts talking to Emily. And we see Rachel come by and she basically sees Dan, and she basically asks Dan if he would be her legs. And then we see Kun using Emily, and we see Kun type in the 25th bomb, and we see that Emily replies with he's alive, and we see that that is the end of episode 39. Now episode 40 is where things get real crazy, because we see the next test with Viol's team as they start running around in a forest, and they lead the entire team that they're up against into a trap where they easily wipe them all out because they fell for a scout's trick. And the light bearer triggers a trap called the central force control, which pushes them all into a limited field, and then they use Yiwa to burn them out, at which point their entire team is basically knocked out and they all start running again, and everything is up to the next part of the match. We find out that Wagner is running from Quattro Blitz, who is going to be a key member of this year. She keeps calling Wagner Chick, and basically she's been following him for quite a while, and Wagner has the key to open the end gold on this floor. Whoever opens it wins the test, and they have the key, so that's how it goes. And Quattro Blitz is also another flame user and threatens to burn everything down if Wagner doesn't show himself. Oh wait, I actually made a mistake earlier. Balm isn't part of the 5 top E rank regulars. He actually should be part of the top 5 E rank regulars. On the top 5 E rank regulars is Chang Balrog. Now Chang Balrog has a very sad end in season 3. We'll get to that later on. And basically he pulls the key away from Wagner, and we see that Quattro is going to kill Wagner for basically sneaking around, and basically he says that he's the chick and long time no see. And we find out that Quattro burnt a chick alive, and basically as they fighting, we see that somebody intervenes, and that is Viol, and Viol jumps in and he uses his bang to cancel out her fire wave control. So they start using their attacks against each other, and finally Quattro says he can control 3 bang, and he pulls it out and he says welcome, and then Viol pulls out 5 bang, and basically Quattro is like, I need 2 more, and then Quattro gets attacked and gets taken down, and that is the end of episode 40. So I'm actually going to stop right here with the story, because the next time we continue it's going to be episode 41, and there's a lot to go through on the next section of the tower. So if you're thinking that things were crazy at this point, things are only going to get crazier heading forward. So here is the whole recap of what has happened in this chapter. We find out that the Yuan family tried to cheat and have Viol eliminated by having a Ranker kill him who wasn't subject to the rules, and they planned on putting Viol in a test that he couldn't win against, and tried to kill him in that manner. So all of this craziness was put into the play, and they tried to do it to eliminate Viol. However, Viol managed to pass the test nonetheless, and he also took on Yurik. Now taking on Yurik was no small feat. Taking on Yurik showed a lot of power, and just being able to scratch Yurik may seem like a very tiny feat, but if he can scratch Yurik in a defensive play when he took it onto himself to defend his teammate, if he had gone all out in offense, he most probably would have hurt Yurik quite a bit more, and that is what really makes Yurik feel that Bam is worth so much more in his own eyes. Now I am saying Bam because I'm switching between the names. It's quite hard to keep it in one tone. With all of that going down on the one side, we see so much of potential in the story at this point. Then we see Khun's team and the influence that Emily has, and the fact that Emily is linking between multiple regulars and that she's up to multiple schemes. Now we find out later that she's one of the ultimate ignition weapons from the workshop, all part of the research that was done with making living ignition weapons, which is to actually power up the Thorn, which was a crazy important weapon for trying to kill Jahad or any of the 10 great family members, because the Thorn can break the rules of the tower since it was made by an irregular. So with all of that being said, that is exactly where it was, and they wanted the soul of an irregular to power it so that they could use it, or an irregular could use it, which is how Bam uses them, and Bam has 2. So obviously had they used Bam's soul to power up one Thorn, they would have had to have waited for other irregulars who are compatible with the Thorns to come in and pair them up and mount them into each one of the ignition weapons, which may have taken forever in terms of the tower. So yeah, that is basically where things were. That is how things were going, and then we get this whole test with Cheng versus Bam's team, and we find out that Khun is stronger than Cheng. And there was something important to note, because the fact that Khun was stronger than Cheng means that Khun was a very dangerous individual all on his own, and that was the whole story that we get at this point. So I hope that you all did enjoy this quick little catch up of the next 10 chapters. See you all in the next one, and have a good day.